Welcome to the Q&A part of Live at the Counts. Audrey, that was so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I haven't done a gig for a while and I forgot what it feels like to be very nervous.
We're so happy to have you here playing for us tonight. I wanted to say a big congratulations on your wonderful release, Bed I Made.
Thank you.
I know that was recorded in New York. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like recording in the States?
I should say it's shortlisted for a Music Victoria Award, not nominated. I recorded it in New York. I was extraordinarily lucky that the circumstances just sort of fell into my lap. I went over, I was on holidays, getting some lessons and hanging out, and then I went to, through friends of friends, I went to this party at a studio with a wonderful now friend, engineer and producer Tariq Khan, at a studio called Hybrid Music in Bushwick, and Bushwick is in Brooklyn. I just want everyone to think I'm cool. I know about Brooklyn, yeah. Anyway, I sort of was, hanging out. It was really cool. It was like a gig at his studio. It was Kendra Foster. For anyone who doesn't know, she used to be a backing vocalist in Parliament, and she's D'Angelo's co-writer. She co-wrote a lot of D'Angelo's stuff. She's amazing. And her solo stuff is incredible. Anyway, she was doing this show there. We were hanging out, and I was like, yeah, I want to record while I'm here. I'm here for 6 weeks. I'd love to record. And, he was like, yeah, shoot me an email, send me your stuff. And I sort of sent him an email the next day, and he didn't reply for about a week. So I was like, oh, well, whatever. I'll keep putting. And then he emailed me and was like, oh, what are you doing next week? I've got the studio and all these musicians are free. You can just come in and do your thing. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, lock it in. And then I had to write all the music in a week, which was a very stressful week.
That's incredible. So a lot of that repertoire just coming together in such a short time.
It's kind of a blessing for me personally, because I'm very bad at finishing things, I'm a perfectionist, so I will start something and keep I have ideas that I've been working on for 10 years, so it's sort of a blessing when I have a deadline.
Nothing like a deadline.
It's like you have to do it. And I did call my mum the night before and was like, I've made a terrible mistake, this is going to be a disaster. But I was so lucky. The musicians that played on my record were so incredible. They made everything sound wonderful.
It was a beautiful result. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
We've had some questions coming through where we can find your music. So we know it's available on Bandcamp. You can also stream it on Spotify.
Yes, you can. Powne, Powne.
Yes.
Powne.
Powne.
That's
and
my
it's
last
great
name.
to support artists by purchasing their music. So we highly recommend that.
It's cheap. It's very cheap.
So you were touring in the US and Europe with the Teskey brothers when the COVID pandemic first broke. I remember texting you going, Audrey, are you okay? Are you coming home? What's going on? Too. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, it was pretty sad, to be honest. I think I'm still in shock. I spent a long time working on getting a US visa and relocating to New York, and I was just starting to hit my stride. I had some other tours lined up that ended up being cancelled, and it was really one weekend. I actually had my first kind of real jazz club gig in New York at 55 Bar, which I was all like, woo, oh my God, I've made it. I'm playing at 55 Bar. And then it was the day that they announced the stay-at-home order, so literally no one was there. But yeah, it was devastating, but the reality of what it was like in New York was too much for me. I had to come home, and I really felt not being a citizen there was difficult. And it was bad in New York. It was really seeing, I think because New York is so iconic, seeing something like Times Square absolutely dead, completely abandoned. I rode my bike down there. It was just shocking and dystopian and terrifying. And then I saw the field hospital in Central Park and was like, I got to get out of here. And I was very lucky that I got to.
We're so lucky.
I got home just before it got difficult to get home. So
yeah, we're so lucky that we got you back home.
I don't know if my mum feels lucky now that she's had her 31-year-old daughter living with her for 18 months, but I feel lucky.
It's such a challenging time for the music industry right now. As a Monash University graduate, I'm wondering if you have any advice for any students currently studying music.
Yeah, don't stop studying music. This time will pass. it's hard. I'm just going to be honest. It's a different life. You know, it's not, you won't get the security of having a job, and I mean, you'll have a job, but you don't get the security you get with, I guess, regular jobs, like being an accountant or a lawyer or something like that. But it more than makes up for it in just the variety, and it's so exciting, and I don't regret it for a second. And in this time, there have been moments where I was like, I should get a job. Like, I really need a job. And then as soon as I think about it, I just remember how amazing my life was before the pandemic, and that will be back. I think it will be back stronger than it was before, maybe, because I think people will have realised how much they missed that. I know I definitely have. And then in a more practical way, I think just don't, I always think like, you know, knowledge is power, and the more you know, the more you can walk into a room and feel confident in who you are. So I still feel like, you know, playing piano is a secondary thing for me. I'm still learning a lot with that, but I think the more that I learn, the more confident I feel. And I think, yeah, I still think what I learned here was to practice, and I still really stand by that. Thank you, Eugene Ball, for telling me to practice more.
Yeah, keep practicing.
Yeah, keep practicing. I know it sounds like it's easy to tell yourself that you don't need to practice, but that's what's great about going to a city like New York, where people really practice. And that's what's great about being at uni, because you're exposed to people that are really working. And if you want to do this as a job, do it as a job, you know. Work on it every day and wake up and, you know, touch your instrument every day.
Yeah, it's not the glamorous part of it, is it?
No.
The reality is a lot of time with your instrument.
You will be strange, and you will spend way too much time alone, and you will think way too much about how much your trumpet playing defines you as a person, and yeah. But it's worth it, because then you get to play, and sometimes, you know, it's most of the time when you play with your friends, it's really, really worth it.
And over the last 18 months since you've been back in Melbourne, you've still been doing some incredible projects. I know you performed with Midnight Oil. You've been doing songwriting with artists like Kylie Aldist. I remember you texted me that you were back in the studio working on your next record on the day that we went back into lockdown. So you set up the band, you started recording, and then it was actually pack up and go home.
It was really, that was a heartbreaking day. But then I teach in a high school, and that school had an outbreak. So then I had to go into 14 days of isolation straight after that as well. But if you've recorded before, you will understand what this means. Like the drum setup. We had this amazing drum setup. We spent all day on it, and it was perfect, and it was wonderful. And my drummer, Michael Wallace, is incredible. We just started recording them. It was sounding amazing. And then someone came in the room and was like, yeah, lockdown. And that was that was when you couldn't believe that we were going back into lockdown, you know. I think it was July. But, you know, we'll do it when we can.
Yeah, we were actually here. We were actually here setting up a sound check for a gig.
Yeah, and I was supposed to do a residency here as well.
They gave us a couple of hours notice. I had to call the band who were on their way in and say, actually, don't come.
Yeah.
Don't come in. It's lockdown. We might go to an audience question. We know you can play the piano beautifully and the trumpet fantastically.
Thank you.
But what's another instrument you wish you could play?
I wish I could play any stringed instrument, particularly guitar and bass. I did buy a Fender Jazz bass.
Did you?
Yeah, and my fingers started bleeding, and I was so bad at it, and it was so demoralizing to be so terrible at it.
I don't believe it.
I gave up pretty quickly. And then I sort of was like, oh, there's enough bass players in the world. But yeah, I wish I could play bass a lot.
I wanted to ask you about some of your performance highlights. I know you've worked with artists such as the Teskey Brothers, Midnight Oil, who we mentioned before, also Maceo Parker, Vince Jones, Megan Washington. Is there any sort of moments that stand out to you, or favourite venues was another question that came through as well?
Oh, yeah.
Favourite venues. Of course, you know, the Counts.
Oh, yeah, the Counts at Monash, of course. You know, playing with Vince was pretty special for me, because I think he was the first trumpet player I ever listened to. My mum listened to Vince Jones. My mum had the cassette tape of Come In Spinner. She used to play. So I think that was one of those things that felt like
Full circle
It
moment.
just felt like it was special. And Vince is such a special guy. So that was very special for me personally. And then in terms of venues, like I was very lucky on the US tour I did with the Teskey Brothers. We played at a lot of kind of bucket list places. I played at Red Rocks. That was pretty amazing. And also this beautiful theatre in Amsterdam called the Paradiso, which was another thing that meant a lot to me personally because there's a lot of D'Angelo. I've already mentioned D'Angelo first. I like D'Angelo.
That's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
And yeah, he played a lot of shows at the Paradiso in Amsterdam, and it's like a converted church. Also, the Teskey Brothers are huge in Amsterdam. There's just like seas of beautiful Dutch women that are obsessed with the Teskey Brothers. It's great. Yeah, I wasn't shocked. They're amazing, but yeah, it was great.
Yeah, what an incredible memory.
Following. It was wonderful, and that was February 2020. So just before things changed.
Just before. I've got a question here from Mike. How you approach capturing emotion with your compositions and how to bring that out in performances.
Ooh, that's a really good question. Lyrics are probably the last thing for me. I think lyrics, I always write the melody first and then fit the lyrics around that. So the chords, really, the harmony leads the composition for me. And then I guess the emotion, I feel a lot of feelings about certain chords. So I think that's, yeah, I think that's how I approach it. But I'm probably not a great person to ask about that because I think I'm not very good at it. Or not very good at it. I'm not very good at it in a lyrical sense. That's sort of, although sometimes when something really profound happens to me, I'm like, I'm going to write a song about that.
I think you're incredibly humble and self-deprecating is just
Thank you,
a big part of your
I wasn't trying to be
personality.
humble. There was a point in my life where I was so, I practiced so much that my love life was so boring. I started writing a song about the relationship between two characters in a sitcom, Nick and Jess from New Girl, because I was like, I have nothing to write songs about, so I'll just write it about them. And that was a moment where I was like, I need some human interaction.
I love that. We've got time for one more question. I wanted to ask you about this venue here, The Counts, was not around when you were a student here at Monash. What does it mean to you to have this relatively new venue in Melbourne Southeast?
I think it's pretty amazing, especially as someone from the Southeast. I lived in Willis Hill all through high school, and when I started at Monash Uni, I lived in Willis Hill. And it was a mission to go to gigs, and all I wanted to do was go and see Andrew Keller and Eugene Ball on a weeknight at Bennett's Lane, but that's very difficult when you live in Willis Hill. It was like almost impossible. I ended up moving out of home when I was 18. I also wanted to move out of home. It's not like I was like, I have to see jazz. But yeah, I think having such an amazing venue in the Southeast will be great for a lot of school-age students that will be able to come and see things. And obviously everyone that lives in the Southeast. But as a student, it would have been just amazing to be able to work with good sound and good technicians at an earlier age. I think I didn't play in a good venue until quite late, like maybe in my mid-20s. It took a while. So I think learning how to use the equipment and how to, you spend so much time on your playing, you want to know how to use a microphone, what microphone you should use, how you want to play in a space. That stuff is really important, and it's hard to learn when you don't have access to those spaces. So this would have been very helpful.
Absolutely. Audrey Powne, thank you so much for being part of Live at the Counts. And thank you so much for joining us and spending your Wednesday night with us here live at the Counts. Thank you for joining our Live at the Counts concert series. We'd like to say thank you to Monash University Performing Arts Centre's technical crew and staff for their incredible work. For information on future shows and more extraordinary live performances, follow @Monash PAC.